Good afternoon. Here is the review for the Chapter 1 test. Okay, so the test is going to have some open-ended questions in the beginning, followed by some multiple choice. I am only going to review the questions that will be open-ended, and it'll be up to you to have studied your notes in the textbook, your vocabulary, your packet with your function families, and any other things that you may have in order to prepare for those multiple choice questions. Review for Chapter 1. Oscar knows there's a relationship between how many hours he practices guitar and how many mistakes he will make. Identify the independent and dependent variables. Okay, well, things that I can count. I can count hours and I can count how many mistakes. So hours as a unit of time, time is always our independent variable. Dependent will be how many mistakes. Okay. The next one says identify the function family that has a maximum and a curved shape. So that would be something you would have to be looking at your function family packet for if you don't know. And if you look through the characteristics of the graph or even just the pictures at the bottom of the page, you would see that quadratics have a maximum and a curved shape. Classify each function as increasing, decreasing, or constant. Okay, first of all, I gotta reminder of what constant means. Constant has many meanings in mathematics. A constant can be a number like 5, all right? 8 is a constant. 5 is a constant. It's a number without the variable. A constant rate of change means something entirely different than a constant function. A constant rate of change indicates any linear function. But a constant function, just those words, means a graph that consists of a flat line. That's a constant function. Okay? So unless it is a flat line, it is not constant. Now, it would be great if you knew just by looking at these equations whether they would increase, decrease, a combination, or be constant. But I don't have that expectation at this time. What you do have is a calculator. And I have taught you how to go into your calculator and look at the functions. So if I was going into this first one and it says 3 to the x power, I would type 3 caret x and hit the graph key. And now by looking at it, I can see that that function is increasing. Okay, that function was going up. All right, the next function, I'm going to clear out the old one, is 2x minus 8. Okay, that graph is also increasing. Okay, the graph went up. The last one, y equals, clear it out, 3x squared minus 5, and hit the graph key. Okay, that function is decreasing and then increasing, and that's what I would write. Decreasing, then increasing. Yes, order matters. You read a graph from left to right. So you can't just say increasing and decreasing. I know it does both, but the order in which it does it matters. 4. Classify each function as linear, absolute value, quadratic or exponential. Okay, so I would love for you to have studied your function family charts enough to know that a linear, when you see the x, it's just an x without an exponent, without absolute value. Okay, I would love that if you saw an absolute value symbol, an x, and there could be other numbers around it, but if you see x within absolute value signs anywhere, that would be an absolute value function. Okay, quadratic, if you see an exponent of 2, anything with an exponent of 2 is quadratic, and anything with an exponent of x is exponential. I would love for you to know that. Okay? But if you don't, that's totally fine. You have a calculator. At the very least, you should recognize the pictures by now. So y equals, okay, 7 parenthesis 2 parenthesis caret x. So that is x for an exponent. I would love for you to know that was exponential, but if you didn't, I want you to look at the graph and see that it's exponential. The next one looks pretty weird. It's in a format we haven't really talked about at all. I see an exponent of 2, and I just said that an exponent of 2 would mean quadratic. However, the minimum I expect is that you're going to go into your calculator and type 2 parenthesis x minus 1. Close your parenthesis, hit your squared key, plus 5. And then hit graph. Oh, that's that U-shaped one. U-shaped ones are quadratic. Hey, quadratic has a U in it because it's a Q word, so you can remember it. Okay, next one. Negative x plus 1. Okay, now that should be one you should remember linear from last year. You should remember linear from last year. Okay, linear has the word line in it. L-I-N-E-R. Now, I see absolute value symbols in this, so kind of think this is going to be absolute value function, but just to remind you how to type it in, go to your y equals. The absolute value is in your catalog. So second, catalog, ABS, and that gives you your bars. And then x plus 5. Now I have to arrow out of the bar to do minus 2. And then I can hit graph. And it's the V shape, absolute V-shaped value. Okay, V-shaped absolute value. Number 5, determine if each function has a minimum, maximum, or neither. Now, if you've really studied your charts, you know that only quadratics, which are the U-shapes, with exponents of 2, and absolute value, which is the V-shapes, okay, and has the absolute value symbols, okay. Only those things have minimums and maximums. So if it's not those two things, it's going to be in neither. So for example, our first one says 7 times 2 to the x power. We just looked at that graph a few minutes ago. I see an x as an exponent. It's got to be 2 as an exponent. So this is exponential. Now if I wasn't sure, I could go and look at use my calculator. And I could type this in. 7 parenthesis 2 parenthesis caret x. And I could look at the graph. Okay? Now I know that it appears that the line flattens out right here, and it seems like, well, wouldn't 0 be the minimum? Nope, because that graph never actually touches 0. It just looks like it does. It gets so close that the calculator's pixels, it looks like it does, but it really does not. Okay, so that is an exponential graph, and we would say neither. Okay, next one. Y equals 2. Come on, I said clear. 2 parenthesis x minus 1 close parenthesis squared plus 5. Okay, this has a minimum right there, has that lowest point. Okay, now I knew it would either have a maximum or a minimum because it had an exponent of 2. If you're really good, you said, oh, this number out in front is positive, which means that my U-shape will open up. And if my U-shape opens up, then I have that low point, that minimum right there. But you have a calculator. Use it. Okay, don't guess if you don't know. Okay, this is a linear equation. Linear equations do not have maximum and minimums. Okay, if I look at the picture, negative x plus 1. Okay, that line does not have a low point or a high point. It goes in both directions for infinity. Okay, and absolute value. Yep, we said absolute value would have a minimum or a maximum, and either you know that it's going to have a minimum because it's positive out here in front. It's not the 2. This minus 2 doesn't matter. It's what's out in front here. That's positive. That tells me my V is opening up. Okay? But if you don't know that, type it in. Y equals clear second catalog ABS x plus 5 arrow out minus 2. Okay, I can see the minimum right there. And the last part of the review sheet is I've given you 4 equations. You got to match up the graphs. So you can do this with or without a calculator. For example, if you were looking at the first one and you said negative 2x plus 5, if you recognize that that's an mx plus b and that is linear, then you find the linear graph and it's graph D. If you don't recognize it as being linear, then type it in. Negative 2x plus 5. Hey, that's a line. And it matches that one. Okay, graph D. Okay, the next one has an exponent of 2. So you may recognize, oh, exponents of 2, that's quadratic. So graph C is the quadratic graph right here. Okay, well, if you don't, no biggie. Y equals, clear it out, 2x squared minus 4. Okay, that matches graph C just by looking at the picture. Okay, part C, we've got absolute value bars. I hope that's a dead giveaway for graph B. But if you're typing it in, y equals, okay, second catalog absolute value x plus 2 arrow out minus 3. Okay, right there, graph B. Okay. And lastly, I mean, all we have left at this point is graph A. It has x for an exponent, which makes you think exponential, should make you think exponential. You should recognize this picture as being an exponential graph, but you can always type it into the calculator. Y equals 2 parenthesis 1.5 parenthesis caret x. And graph A is what matches. Okay. So reminder, you're going to have multiple choice questions on your test tomorrow that I'm not going over in the review. This review has been very generous for you, telling you how to do each question, reminders on how to use the calculator to help you. So good luck on your test tomorrow, and have a great night. I will see you tomorrow.